Senator Obama, as president, will refocus America's efforts on the greatest threat to our security, that is the resurgence of Al-Qaeda and the Taliban in Afghanistan and also in Pakistan. He will increase our troop levels in Afghanistan, press our allies in NATO to do the same, and he will revitalize Afghanistan's real economic development. He will also work very hard to secure the proliferation of nuclear weapons into the hands of terrorists. Obama will lead a global effort to secure all loose nuclear materials around the world in 4 years. He's begun this work with Senator Dick Lugar, and he will continue to do that. And he will insist that the nations of Iran and North Korea verifiably account for all of their nuclear programs. He will use all elements of power to work with and start an aggressive, principled, and direct diplomacy-related campaign to support ourselves and our national security. And it is time, frankly, for us to rebuild our national and world alliances. He will strengthen those alliances against terrorism, proliferation, and climate change, and reinvigorate long-standing efforts around the world and launch new ones. And in fact, Barack Obama will increase our foreign assistance to $50 billion by 2012, thereby easing the strains that take place amongst troubled states, failing states, cutting global poverty in half, and fighting disease and famine around the world. I cannot imagine a world, a nation led continually by the blatant disregard of the people and by its citizens if we continue down the road that we have begun with George Bush. A McCain-Palin administration will be 4 more years of the same disaster that has brought America to the brink of world calamity, and that must stop.
Thank you. Leslie, would you please take the next 5 minutes to explain why Senator John McCain would be the better commander-in-chief for this country the next 4 to 8 years?
Sure. The number one responsibility of any president is the protection of our great citizens. And I don't think there's anybody who doubts that John McCain, based on his service, is more qualified, has more wisdom and judgment to do that. And I will give you one example of that, and that is the surge. Now, it's easy to look at the surge now and realize that violence has dropped down, that we've been able to bring down troop levels, that troops have been able to withdraw from certain areas of Iraq because the surge has succeeded. But what I'd like you to do is go back in time with me just a little bit when this first started. Because when John McCain proposed the surge, violence was at some of its highest levels since the war on terror in Iraq began. And in fact, there was a number of people, in fact most of the media, New York Times, broad swath of media, that were totally opposed to this, feeling that the Bush policy had failed, and so McCain's policy was really doubling down, like somebody at Vegas who's losing and decides to bet everything on that last chip. The fact of the matter is that McCain knew better than a lot of the other advisors what would work, because he's been in these situations before. He understands. And the thing that I think is most illuminating about John McCain, whether you're for the surge or whether you have questions about the surge, was the statement that he made at the time he proposed it. Now remember, there was broad opposition, not only among the Democrats, but among the intelligentsia, the media, world community. And what McCain said was, I would rather lose an election than see America lose a war. In other words, he was prepared to be unpopular and uncool, but stand up for what he thought was the right position, even if it was going to cost him something that he would very much love to do, which is to be president so that he could serve as president. Not just to be president, but to serve as president. There aren't many people that I can look back at who have taken that position and said, look, this may cost me the office. This may cost me this election. I don't care whether it's running for state rep or state senator or president. Very few have said, this may cost me, but I'm going to stand by what I believe is right. And I think that indicates John McCain is the man we need in the White House. Because the fact of the matter is, we just observed the 7th anniversary of 9/11 only a few days ago. No one could have possibly foreseen that. So the reality is that moving forward and electing a president for the next 4 years, we don't know what challenges will face Barack Obama or John McCain. And as a result, what we need to do is look at the character of the individual and how he's handled these situations in the past. That's why I'm so confident in casting my vote for John McCain, Because even though we don't know what challenges will be confronting us in the next 4 years, I'm confident John McCain will do what's right for America.
Thank you very much, Rusty. Well, that concludes the more formal part, the more structured part of tonight's debate. What I'd like to do now is to invite you to queue up at one of the two microphones at the end of each aisle here, and feel free to prepare questions, and we'll just take them, alternately. So please come forward with your questions. And while we're waiting for the troops to gather here, I think I'll exercise my prerogative to ask the first question. I'm curious, which one of you gentlemen, well, let's put it this way, which candidate will be better for our energy future? Energy has been on everybody's mind in this country, especially since the summer began. So I'd like for you to take a shot at that. Would you like to start with an answer? Is your candidate going to be the better energy president?
Yes. Take my word on it. Same line his candidate's selling. I do believe that Senator Obama has a reasonable energy plan that will create energy independence leading over the next 10 years, something that is sustainable and achievable, and again very realistic. It's not based on gimmicks. It's not based on gas tax holidays. It's not based on made-up threats. It's not based on drilling offshore with the promise that we'll end our oil dependence on Middle soil by drilling for something that we won't actually achieve results for at least 7 years. There aren't gimmicks. It's real. It's reasoned, and it is direct. It's a direct investment in alternative energy. It's a direct investment in green jobs, changing our blue-collar Rust Belt image to a green-collar, eco-friendly environment. The 20th century saw tremendous gains here in the state of Michigan. Those of us that have ties to the auto industry, that have ties to big manufacturing here with furniture, with other types of exciting things that happen, know that Michigan built America in the 20th century. Michigan can continue to build America in the 21st century with clean technologies, with renewable energy, with a new reliance on wind energy and other alternatives, building pure hybrid electric cars that can get 150 miles instead of gas. And those are realistic achievements that we can achieve in 10 years when we put our mind to it. It is time to start thinking outside of the box and start believing that we can do it. Just as John Kennedy believed that we could do it in the 1960s, Barack Obama believes that we can do this now in the 21st century. And I believe that a passionate person that believes in it can make it happen. And I sincerely hope that citizens will agree with me that Senator Obama's plan will be right to end our dependence on foreign oil and will secure us well into the future.
Thank you. A response?
On this one, I feel very confident. There's no question John McCain has a better program, and let me lay it out for you. First of all, we support, and I congratulate Barack Obama, he supports renewables, solar, wind, tides, harnessing those sorts of natural forces to try and generate more energy. That's all good, and we're supportive of that, so that you've got some bipartisanship up here. But I think we need to go beyond that. And I think most people who look at the situation would say, that's not enough. That's why John McCain supports the Lexington project, which includes not only renewable energy, but expands essentially advancing on all fronts. That means cleaner coal technology. It also means nuclear power. And it means more oil exploration and more drilling. Recently, you had President Bush go to the Middle East, go to Saudi Arabia, try and get more production of oil. What kind of a situation do we face where we get the President of the United States going to countries in the Middle East, asking them to increase their oil production, and yet we're not willing to lift the restriction on oil exploration and drilling right here in America on our continental shelf? We're keeping ourselves held hostage. We need to make that change ourselves. So yes to renewables, yes to all of that, whether it's wind, solar, or tide. But what we also need to do is advance on other fronts as well. Clean coal technology, nuclear power, and yes, oil exploration and oil drilling.